The European Union hopes to take a global role in tech regulation. Brussels has released a first draft of its new digital strategy to break the dominance of US tech giants such as Facebook and Google, as well as their hold on data. At the centre of the EU's plan is the creation of a single European data market to boost growth in its tech industry. The creation of an EU cloud platform is also a key element. Its strategy includes rules on the use of artificial intelligence, with facial recognition a key concern. Brussels also wants to make data centres climate neutral by 2030. And the European Commission estimates the value of the bloc's data economy may grow to $800 billion this year once the right policy is put in place. That number could reach more than $1 trillion by 2025.
And therefore, we want to boost European artificial intelligence by attracting more than 20 billion euros per year for the next decade. Artificial intelligence is about big data. Data, data, and again data. And we all know that the more data we have, the smarter our algorithms. This is a very simple equation. And therefore, it is so important to have access to data that are out there. This is why we want to give our businesses, but also our researchers and the public services better access to data.
Well, for more on this, Lewis Crofts joins us now from Brussels. He's the editor-in-chief of MLEX, which is a global newswire covering regulatory risk in areas including technology, antitrust and competition. Welcome to Money Talks, Lewis. Now, we heard there from Margaret Vestager about these plans, and Ursula von der Leyen, about these plans for a single data market. They've opened now a 12-week period of discussion on this proposal. What's your initial reaction? Is this a step in the right direction for the EU?
So this is one of the EU's big new policies. When the European Commission took office, the new European Commission under the President von der Leyen, who you just showed, when they took office in December, they came up with two big pillars. One was the Green Revolution, making Europe fit for the sustainable world in which we want to live in. And then the second is the digital revolution. Now, how does Europe catch up? On the one hand, you've got the Silicon Valley giants, and on the other hand, you've got Chinese tech charging ahead. So how does Europe catch up with that? And this is the second big strategy. Now, what did they do today? They essentially announced a load of plans, white papers, discussions, consultations, and so forth. But this is the start of what will probably spin off several new laws.
Now, it's no coincidence that some of the bosses of those Silicon tech giants, Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook and Sundar Pichai of Google, have recently been in Brussels meeting with EU officials. Should the US tech giants be worried?
I think they should. I mean, they've long been worried about Brussels. Brussels has been at the forefront of antitrust regulation. They've put billions and billions of euros in fines on Microsoft, on Intel, on Google, and they have investigations into Amazon, they have investigations into Facebook, and they've also asked for $13 billion in back taxes from Apple. So the tech giants have got a long history of clashing with Brussels, and this is just the start of a new chapter. It's no surprise that people like Zuckerberg and people like Sundar Pichai of Google come to Brussels to seek to engage, to open a dialogue, because they know often what gets made in Brussels then gets copied elsewhere. You can see regulators around the world, from Australia to Korea to Brazil, doing copycat probes, picking up on the lead of the Brussels regulators to do the same thing in their countries.
Now, regulation could potentially mean red tape as well. Do you think that the creation of this so-called single data market and tighter restrictions on things like AI technology, could that threaten to set back the EU's advancement in these areas?
It's a good question because, there's one thing that the EU likes to do, and the EU likes to regulate. It likes to come up with laws. When you have parliaments and councils and governments, they don't sit still, they regulate. What Europe wants to do is they want to allow this technological revolution to take place, but in a European way. That means with European ethics on things like facial recognition, on things like algorithms, on things like tracking. What they often say is they look to Asian economies and they get scared by the degree to which facial recognition is used, for example, on the streets of Hong Kong and so forth. And they get scared when they look at the power of Silicon Valley giants in America sitting astride massive markets like gatekeepers. And they say, let's try and do this in a European way. And a European way means principles. It means ethics, so that when you have a computer program, an algorithm, or artificial intelligence, there is some trust that the European consumer can have that is an ethical piece of AI, that it isn't, that the human inside the robot is someone that they can trust.
And we know that US President Donald Trump has criticized the EU for what he's described as the meddling of the EU in terms of US big tech firms. Do you think this might also set up a showdown with the Trump administration?
There's one thing that everyone's scared of in Brussels when a new regulation comes out is a tweet from the President of the United States of America. He doesn't like to see his flagship companies be taken to task, be taken to court, be asked to pay 13 billion back taxes. Apple, for example, which Apple would say is money that they were going to repatriate to the US. So unfortunately, it always looks like Europe against the US. That is a function of the fact that all the big tech companies are US tech companies. There's no avoiding that. So there will be a clash. There's a clash at the moment over Europe, which wants to tax these companies more. They say that these companies are not paying their fair share in Europe and they're going to tax them. And Donald Trump has reacted very critically towards those. So you can expect more of the same.
Okay, Lewis Crofts from MLEX in Brussels. Thank you so much for your analysis.